had a very colorful career, we'll say. So, in terms of my favorite moments and favorite incidents, we call them, in my CMB history, my personal CMB history, I guess there were a few that really stand out to me. One, the first one that pops to mind was my first year. I had the unfortunate happening of getting injured. That was entirely not due to the bands, and don't get crazy with that. But we went to a community pool as the band, and part of this pool had a shallower section that also had a water slide associated with it. And although everyone believes that I was not of my sound mind or body, or that I was doing something dangerous or stupid, I was actually doing exactly what you're supposed to when you go down a water slide, crossing your arms, laying flat on your back. I just hit the bottom of the pool very hard and ended up busting my heel open. So I ended up going to the hospital, and even though it's not really CMB related directly, it ended up being one of the most hysterical incidents in my life. Again, Kyle Singleton was there. He was a very, very big influence. He was in the process of helping another CMB member who wanted to go to the hospital because she was having terrible migraines. At the time we had a woman named Tiffany Hornberger working with us, and she was fantastic. If anybody out there knows Tiffany, she is amazing. She was always smiling, always fun, very perky, very on top of her game in terms of logistics, and she was a big part of my first year experience. And I don't think I ever would have gotten to know her if it hadn't been for that one fateful night where she ended up driving me to the hospital, and she stayed with me for the entire experience. And we were making fun of other people working at the hospital, and every time I ended up having a pretty rough experience just because they decided to let the interns do the stitching and all the cleaning of the wound, and it did not go well at all. But out of all of it, I ended up making a really good friend, and she and I stayed friends for quite a while after that. Now she's in Kentucky, I believe. Certainly fallen out of touch, but it was just a great experience, just knowing that there's a solid family behind the CMB, and that they take everybody very seriously. You're not just a statistic or a number or a spot on the field. You're a person, and that they treat you like that. And what I really appreciated about that was I'm not the kind of person to just sit on the sidelines and complain and say, oh, well, it was me, and not be a part of the action. So the next day when we had field practice in the morning, I spent maybe 30 minutes sitting on the side before I realized that I was just going to go stir crazy. And I had to get up and try and at least march in place and get the turns down for the opening set that we were doing. We were working on the pre-game drill sets, and at that point we were still doing these high steps coming out of the tunnels, and it was intense. A lot of turning, a lot of interesting marching, and I was lucky to have Lauren Schmidt be my drill instructor at the time, and she was also right next to me in the drill, so she was a big part of helping me understand where I was going and figure out what the new spots would be. And by the end of the day, I should say, when we finally had a chance to do the Scott Stadium practice, Mr. Pease came up to me, Dr. Pease now, came up to me, and he said, very, very nonchalantly, acting as if the 5 stitches in my heel and the bloody sock that I had was no big deal. He said, well, you should probably get out there. We don't have any opportunities to practice in Scott Stadium. I mean, you do what you want, but I would recommend it. So, of course, I went out there and I marched, and by the end of the week, I was doing everything on my toes because I couldn't actually hit the heels, but it ended up making a really good impression for me, I ended up making a very good impression, not only with Dr. Pease, but also with my other section member. I wanted to be a part of the experience, and that was just a great time for me. It kind of set me off on the right foot, no pun intended. But I guess on the more fun side of things, one thing I always look forward to were the band camp games. Not necessarily at the Olympics specifically, but I had a lot of fun with the singing competitions. I was notorious for doing a little gender bending, we'll say, and at one point, actually the first year of the competition, when we first started introducing the karaoke competition. I was with the Clarinet section, and we did a rendition of Lady Marmalade. And we had Nathan Rogers, who's a fantastic singer, absolutely fantastic singer. And then we had Brandy Myers and Monique Perry and one other person. I can't remember who that was. It might have been Natalie. But anyway, so the five of us were up there. We were all just kind of in street clothes. Nathan and I had sweatshirts on and jeans on, and the girls looked nice. They looked like they were a little dressy. And halfway through the first verse, Nathan and I started to take off the sweatshirt, take off the shorts, and we realized that the crowd soon realized that we were in fishnet stockings and wearing skirts or dresses or something like that. Ended up getting a really good reaction and had a lot of fun with the judges themselves. And it kind of set a precedent that we were taking it seriously, and that the next year's competition really stepped up. A lot of people ended up doing a little bit of gender bending the next year and really trying to shock people and wow them. And I think we ended up actually winning that year for the karaoke competition, which was just fantastic, because to be a part of that and to set the standard for what would be expected from future competitions was a lot of fun. It was a great team bonding experience, especially with a section as big as the Clarinet's, about 30-some people. It's really important to really find a way to utilize everybody's skills to keep them interested, and that was one thing that our section leaders at the time did a very good job with. So it was a lot of fun to be a part of. In a lot of ways, one thing I really enjoyed was the drum major tryouts. So I actually tried out twice and did not get selected either time. And in a lot of ways, I'm completely satisfied with not being selected. I loved being section leader as a clarinet leader or clarinet player, and I built a lot of camaraderie with my group. It taught me a lot about just personal management, how to work with somebody very closely, maintain good relationships, and be a better friend to people in a lot of ways. And one thing that I really enjoyed about the drum major tryouts themselves, when I was watching the tryouts, it was fantastic just to see all these different personalities get up and honestly try and do the exact same work. But everybody had a different approach, everybody had a different style, different level of energy, different amount of charisma, and it was fantastic to see all of those personalities really come out and be exemplified in those tryouts. You would have anywhere from 7 to 15 people trying to conduct this one song, and the poor concert band, they hated that song. But it was just fun to watch. It was fun to be in the audience with other members of the marching band and with other staff, and to actively really be impressed by everybody who tried out. There were very few people that didn't impress me. You would have people that would traditionally be very reserved, very shy. You wouldn't hear a whole lot out of them in terms of conversation throughout the entire year, but they step up on that podium and they just wow you. They show up with some kind of energy that you've never seen before. It's almost as if they get up and teach every day, and you wouldn't expect it. So people really impressed me a lot doing that. I think on the flip side, I like being in front of people. I like being the center of attention, as you can tell. But being up on that podium was both a nerve-wracking experience and an exhilarating experience. Just even though I knew it was only for 10 minutes, if that, the opportunity to help people, conduct people really, and have them make music in front of you is just fantastic. Being on that podium, you could have the entire band, and I think that's one of the things that really spoke to me as the position of drum major, why I wanted it so much, was just to be in front of the entire band, just to be blown away by that sound. Being on the sidelines as a graduate assistant was fantastic because I got to listen to them all the time. Sometimes I was on the field running around in a Bert and Ernie costume, and basically just making a fool of myself, trying to march some of these sets, trying to help with the visuals, I played saxophone at one point as a graduate assistant, which was a ton of fun, so I tried to learn all the pregame music in about 15 minutes in the tunnels, which was insane. But just the experience of serving as a drum major for 10 minutes at a time was wonderful, and I absolutely loved it. I guess I reminded myself one of the other fun things about CMB were the Halloween practices, largely because not only do you have entire sections that would dress up as a specific costume, or you would have really creative, intricate costumes. I think one year some group dressed up as the racers from Mario Kart, and we had I don't even know how many different types of costumes that the directors would dress up in, including Star Wars or superheroes, things of that nature. I guess on a kind of funny note, at least in my opinion, we had a graduate or an employee who used to work with the university named Ed Savoy, and he came dressed up as R2-D2, which really was just him under a white trash can for 2.5 hours, and it was the saddest and funniest thing. I just couldn't walk past him without wanting to crack up, and he was a good sport about it, but he also had no idea what was going on. There was a little bit of trickery, but it was a lot of fun, and just being a part of those practices, because everybody shows up with kind of a renewed sense of energy, and it's all about the fun, and you realize that it's not, the music is important, the marching is important, but the family is what comes first. So I loved being a part of those experiences. Beyond the one visual that I mentioned where we do the high knees to the chest, moving to the side in a very dramatic fashion, that was probably my favorite visual. But there were a couple visuals that really stand out in my mind. So my first year, my second year, when I was with the Clarinet section, my first year, Tim Ciesco was one of our drill instructors, and Tim Ciesco loves to dance, and he loves to do intense, complicated dance moves. So we did a Blues Brothers show that year, which ended up being a show that we did not only during the regular season, but also for the bowl game. We did an abbreviated version of that. And there's a visual that the band started in the basketball band the previous season, which basically involved moving the instruments in a counterpoint in a clockwise circle, and it was just chaotic. But trying to do that on the field while marching was just insane. But Tim Ciesco was adamant about doing that. So he had a lot of colorful visuals. We also did some booty dropping during the Beyonce song that we did. It was ridiculous, but it was fun because we had a lot of people in our section who couldn't dance, who don't know how to move, who, when it comes to dancing, just look very uptight, like it's a yacht club or something like that, and it was a ton of fun.